Notion is an amazing tool to run your agency or freelance business. If only there wasn't one big issue: client portals. For the longest time, there wasn't really a good way to build automated client portals so that you could share only the specific projects and tasks with a specific client. But luckily, we finally have a solution. And in this video, we will go over everything you need to know to build your own perfect client dashboards for your business. But first, let's quickly recap why this is even an issue. If you want a scalable and efficient setup for your company Notion, that means you're going to use databases. And it is simplest of all, company workspaces, we might have a database for tasks and one for clients. And then we simply assign every task to a client. And internally, this works amazing because I can then, of course, set up a dashboard, right, for each client. And my team can have a look at it and they can see only the tasks related to this specific client. But the problem is that I can't now just share this externally. Because if I do, what happens if I just grab the link quickly and then look at this, on a browser, this is what they will see. They will get a message that they don't have access to the underlying database. Because right now, I've only shared this page. And if it pulls in content from somewhere else, like in this case from this database, that means the client needs to have access to tasks as well. So what you would need to do is you would need to share both tasks and clients with the external person for this to work. You need to share tasks because otherwise he doesn't have access to the database itself. And you need to share clients because otherwise the filter won't work. Let me just show this to you quickly. So let's go in here and we go publish, and we will see this now on the front end. With only the task database shared, we are able to see now the table, but it doesn't show any results because the filter condition is not accessible to them. So again, you would also need to share the clients as a whole with in order for this to work. And now you're in a situation where you've shared both your internal task database and your internal client database with the client. So in theory, they could now access all the records in there. Of course, you can try some workarounds with hiding the access to it, but as of now, and that's very, very important to understand, there's no 100% secure way for you to lock down the setup. Clients who know Notion will be able to go back to see your whole task database or your whole client list and also what relates to which of course isn't the best case situation if you don't want to, expose all your internal information to clients. And this lack of granular permissions is why for the longest time, Notion was only amazing if you used it for internal collaboration. But you couldn't quite use it to, share like a subset of the information with external parties. Well, until now at least. The new update that finally makes these client portals for Notion possible actually doesn't come from Notion itself. It comes from Softr. Softr is a super simple drag and drop app builder. And previously they mostly integrated with Airtable as their backend, but now they just released the beta access for their Notion integration. That means you can use Notion to track everything and internally align with your team, and then use Softr to build specific client portals to share certain things with only them. This client portal can then have specific permissions, so that every client only sees the items that are relevant to them. Best of all, their free plan is amazing and more than enough to start building your own client portals. Here's a quick demo. You will have your internal Notion system, right, where you can track projects, tasks, all these things and internally align with the team. And then for the clients, what you can have is this little button to launch the client portal, and this brings them to the external part, which is walled off, which has only the permission so they see only their specific elements. So we see Welcome Acme, we see the 2 projects that are assigned to that specific client. They can then click as the client into one of these projects, and just as if they were working in Notion with us in our workspace, they see the tasks that they currently have to review, the ones that are in progress. They can approve them and add it with one action, the status of an element, and so on and so on. And don't worry, I will walk you step by step through the whole process in this video. And in order to follow along, you can create your own free Softr account with the link in the description. So thank you Softr for sponsoring this video, and thank you for finally integrating with Notion. Now time to dive into the tutorial and build a client portal in Notion together. First, it's time to set up our backend in Notion. For this sample client dashboard, we want to have 3 databases. One for projects, one for tasks, and one for the individual clients. But of course, you can adjust the system if you have a different method of how you work with your clients. All right, so let's start up with the first database for projects, and then create another one on the same page for tasks, and then the last one for clients. And we can tie them up later, but for now, for the setup process, it's really nice to have them all in one page. We can then remove the tag property because we don't need it anywhere, and then start setting up the properties that we want to have on them. Now, I'm just going to create some sample properties, and again, you can expand it to fit the specific workflows of your company. All right, so for projects, what I want to have is I want to have a date property, and I want this to be a duration. Then I want a status property to indicate, of course, what the status is. And I think let's also add a select property to indicate the type. Maybe we have like for the different types of services that we sell, particularly if we are a productized business. All right. Next up on tasks, let's get a date for the due date. Let's also get a status. Status on here. Let's also make sure that we have responsible. So we want to have a person property that should be the individual person. And then last but not least, we of course want to be able to connect our tasks to our projects. So we'll create a relation from tasks to projects, showing it on both sides. And that way we can now start assigning our tasks to projects. So let's just, project A, project B, and project C. And then we have here our tasks, task 1, task 2, and task 3. And for now, let's connect these 2 tasks to project A, and then our third task to project B, just so we have some sample data in there. So far, so good. Now we need also, of course, a client. Let's actually set up 2 clients. And here in the client database, we of course can track a lot of things, right? Like their emails, all sort of relevant information. But for now, let's actually set up only one property, and that is the relation to the projects. And we'll come back to this in a second to update it with the other properties that we do. But for now, we want to just have here, and we work, of course, for Apple. And we work for Acme Inc. And Apple has the project A, and Acme Inc. has project B and project C. All right. Then we create our app in Softr. This is what you'll see once you log into Softr. And what we want to do is we want to create a new app, and we want to start from scratch. This allows us to customize pretty much everything. First things that happens is like Softr will suggest a few pages for us that are typically part of an app. It's the homepage, so the landing page where what the client sees when they sign in. A list that will be the elements of the different projects. But we actually show this on our homepage, so we don't need this separately, so we can untick this. List details, that's good because we want to be able to click into our database and show the related elements to it. Form we don't need for now. Sign up we don't need for now because we will onboard users on our end, but we want a sign in, reset and forget password potentially, and a user profile. So these we leave, and then we create our application. Then we have to wait a second while Softr is building it, and then we see things in front of us. And first, quick talk about the UI. In front of you, you will always see a preview of what you're currently building with different elements on the page. And like in typical web or app builders, you have the different blocks that get highlighted when you hover over them. And then on the right side, you have, once you highlight a block, then the different settings available for that block. On left, you have the general navigation, so you can swap between the different pages that you're editing. We'll talk about it in a second. You can edit the general theme of your website, the way the colors and everything should appear. You can manage your users and the overall settings. And we'll go over these in a second, but for now, we will just start building out the different elements, and then we come back to the more advanced settings. So let's take a look at this default homepage that Softr gives us out of the box. We have this first block, which is the feature grid 3, right? We always see the name here of the block that we're highlighting. And then below that, we have the list. Now, lists are the main way that we will connect Softr with Notion, because these lists are basically just database views. So we can connect that list with a data source in Notion and then pull the information from Notion in here to display it. Whereas the other blocks behave more like general building blocks for a website or for a web app that we can use to add other context around it. So again, for now, let's ignore the upper part and let's focus on this list part and the functionality with Notion. Now we can start mapping our data from Notion to Softr. So as soon as I highlight this block, we see list, and then we have different tabs for the settings. The first thing that we need to do is we need to select a data source. Once you click on here, I have Notion already connected, but for you, you want to click on add another data source. You want to select Notion once you've been added to that private beta, and then you can go through the OAuth flow, where as always, when you integrate something with Notion, you need to authorize which pages it should have access to. And very important, it needs to have access to the pages that you have connected and on which you just created your databases. After you authorize your Notion for Softr, you will have then this dropdown where you can select databases. Now, if you click on it immediately, you might not see a database already. So you have two options. First, you can just click on refresh, and then it should pop up after a second. If that doesn't happen, you can go back to Notion, and you can make sure that on the page that contains your databases, you want to click on the three dots. You want to go down, you want to make sure that under connections you have Softr here, because that shows you that it's shared. If not, make sure to go to connect to and then select Softr so that it has access to these pages. Perfect. Now that that's done, we can tell Softr, okay, what are we looking at here, right? What should we see? In this case, right, this is the client. He's opening this page, and what we want to show them is we want to show them the projects that we're currently working on. So I will select here projects, and now it will automatically, the tooltip popping up, congratulating me that I did this. I will have now the option to, on this page, set filters. We will come back to that in a moment. But what we are more interested in for now is the content tab. If we switch over to content, we now have like all these pre-created fields, all the fields that are available on this list, and we can start mapping them to our Notion data. So let's go through them one by one. First, we have this heading information here, heading 2. So we can simply click on this, and now we can, it has the type, and then we can say, okay, what item should that be? So we can click on that dropdown, and now we have the option to select from our Notion database all the properties that are available here that we could map to this. So if we map the text, we see that we now see project A, project B, and project C in here. We have also an image option. So if we had added an image property on our Notion database, which would be a file property, and we could map an image over here as well, but we actually don't need it. So instead, what we can just do is we can click on hide, and that will make it disappear. And again, we have this live preview here on the side. All right. Moving on, we have then this divider, just like as this little line going on here, and then we have now horizontally stacked the next things. Label, right, and it tells us already what would be a good thing to map over here. So label, they say, would be great for a single line of short text. So what we actually want to show here is the duration. So what we can go in is we can go in and we say, okay, type text. There's no date property, right, but text is totally fine to display this. And we want to select as the content the duration. Now, one thing that you'll notice, if you pick duration itself, it will only pick the start date. So in order for this to have the start date and the end date, we actually need to go to Notion in a second and change this. But before we do that, let's quickly modify what it says above it. So instead of label, I want this to say duration. Perfect. So then let's quickly head back to Notion and change our data so we can display the complete duration here, not just the start date. To do so, let's go to our projects database and let's add here a formula property. And we can call this display duration and then Softr in brackets, just so we know what this is about. And what we basically want to do is we want to grab the date start. So we say date start duration, and we want this to be just as a string. So we put format after it, and then we put plus, and then we have like a quotation mark, a space, a line, and a space, just so we have this same divider in between. And then we put date end, plus we need, and then we say date end, and again duration, and after it dot format. Now this will print out pretty much the same thing that we see here, but now we can easily pull it into Softr. And in order to do so, we head back to the app, and since we changed and added a new property, we need to go quickly back to the source and click here on refresh. This will pull in the new available property. And then under content, I can now start mapping duration to the display duration. Now, once I click on here, you will see for now nothing. It will just give you this line, but don't worry, it works. It's just like that the preview here in the app can't deal with the formula calculation. So what we need to do is we need to actually preview it on the front end, so how it would look like for a user. So we click on preview, and then we see here in the second. So you see we have now October 1st until October 10th correctly printed out. Perfect. All right. So that's step 1. Next up, what other properties do we want to show? We probably want to show the status of the project, and we want to show the type of the project. So going in and looking at the next options, here it currently has an email, but we don't need an email. So we switch away from email to the tag option. And then we want to say here, please, as the items, what you want you to display is the status. And then again, we just change the status, the label from label to status. All right. And then we will do the same thing for the second label, where we say, okay, this is not a URL either. This is also a tag. The item that we want you to pull from is, in this case, the type. And we will call this project type. Again, if we see the preview here, status not started, project type, company wiki, on-demand support, and complete Notion system, just like we have it in here. We can also make this whole thing look a bit more aesthetic. Instead of like choosing the color single, which means it just gives us this element, we can say as defined in data source, which means it like will go into Notion and we'll try to map it over. Of course, it doesn't have the same colors available as Notion, so we need to just have a look at how it actually maps over. Or we can also pick the generic colors that they have in the system, which are a bit more in line with the whole vibe of their tool, and then we have that here properly shown. All right. And then I think that's it for now. We don't have any other elements in here for now. So we can actually remove the last two fields and then maybe we add one in later if we want to add some additional fields. But for now, we don't need them. So we can shorten our overall list view. Let's continue customizing our list here. One thing that you see is down below here is that this option for search bar. So we can choose whether we want to display or not display the search bar up here for people to search through a large amount of records. We can also change what they should be able to type in here. And very cool, we can change what it should search by. So by default, right, it makes the most sense to have them search by the name, but for whatever reason you want them to have them search by project type or like status, that will be possible as well. We can also change the filters. So here we currently have preset filters for all categories. So what we can do is we can go in here and we can now tell it, okay, what should that actually amount to? So one thing that would be quite nice is to say, like, right, if we want actually to be able to sync by project or like to filter by project type. So in order to do so, we will toggle on sync options with data source. After we filter, choose that the property that we want to filter by is the project type. So let's go to type. And then we have sync with data source automatically available. And now we see it automatically takes from Notion the options that we have here. So in particular, if you have like large projects, or if you have clients with a lot of these individual elements, right? Maybe you're a marketing agency and you have like hundreds of campaigns with a specific client. This is super cool to allow them to quickly narrow things down. And if you want to add more filters, you can do so too. So here we see the add filter option. So we can say, well, so this is the first option will be by the type, and then the second option will be actually by status. And again, we want to sync it with it. Sorry for that. So it actually pulls it in from Notion. And now we just need to add labels. So this will be, here by project type. And the lower one will be by status. All right. If you want to also, like, you can say for the status that it actually should not be like this word cloud, but here we want to have it as a drop-down option, which then allows us to have it next to the name field here in this nice view. And if you have several of these, then they all get added here as drop-down options. We're pretty much done on the content tab for now. So let's move on and look at actions. Under actions, we see that we have an option to have a top bar button if we want to. So this new record button here. And of course, if you want that your clients have no options to submit things, you want to just deactivate this. But if you want the ability for them to submit a request, then this is really, really cool because it allows us through the client portal to add new entries to our Notion database. So in order to do so, first we should probably go to our Notion database and just add a new property here, like description, right? Or like it's called this client comment, so that they can actually, provide us with some input. And I've also already previously just quickly added here the submitted by client status so we can track it. So then we can go in here and we can start setting these things up, of course, quickly refreshing the source so that it's pulled in. And then heading back to actions, opening this up and then opening up this add record option. First, let's actually call this, submit project request, just so it's a bit clearer that they're doing a request and not automatically adding something. And then we open this up and we have now a lot of options that we can map to our Notion field. So we can say, okay, there should be like a main text field. So input type is text. And then it will map to in Notion to the name of the property. We can, if we want, give this a title. So, like this would be the project, requested project. And we can also tell them, what do you want from us? And this will be a required field. And now, same as with before with the list, we can go through the options, what we want them to set, and probably we only want them to set the comment, so we can remove actually all of these other options, and then we want to just have one single longer text field for the request. Perfect. So we will say, okay, in terms of the this label here, what we want to happen is that this is a long text. This will map to the client comment, and this will be, client, maybe describe your request. What can we help you with? Yeah, could probably do this a little bit better, but you get the gist of it. So let's just quickly see how this looks. If we click on preview, we go back again to our app view, and now we can click on the submit the project request button, and we see we get this like little form where people can then say like, okay, what do you want from us? I want this and that, and then we can describe our request, and it will be dropped right into Notion. Now we have, of course, two more things to adjust here, like add a new record, and then we just want to make sure that the tooltips here fit what we request. So again, under actions, we can go down here to the record modal settings, and instead of add new record, we can say submit new project request, just to fit the general button, and then we call this submit and cancel. And then as the success message, we can say project request submitted. Perfect. Time for the most exciting part: creating custom permissions and making sure that every client only sees the information that they are supposed to see. In order to do this, we need to add users to our system. Because remember, what we're doing here with Softr is we're building a web app, an application on top of our information from Notion. And in there, right, we use the terms of users to authorize individual people and then show them their relevant information. So to do so, we go here on the sidebar on users. And now here we can sync with the data source. The cool thing about Softr is that it has like some really, really easy user management built in, where we can use our Notion database, the client's database, as the storage, and Softr will handle all the authentication. So let's click on sync with data source, and let's select as the data source our client's database. Once we do that, we see that it shows us a few fields that we can map. And we see that we need to expand our database because we don't have anything for email right now. Plus, I would recommend that if you build these client portals, you use the magic link option. That's very easy in terms of the client onboarding, because if you use email plus password, then it can feel for them like, oh, I have another account that I need to create, and so on and so on. If it's a magic link, you can simply, as part of the onboarding that you send them, be like, okay, here, like we're working together now. You can just click on this link to see always the updated status, right? So that's a lot easier to do. So given that, we need a field for email and we need a field for the magic link. So let's go to Notion. And let's create here an email property. And then let's also create a text property for the magic link. All right, perfect. Now, let's head back, refresh here quickly so that it pulls in the new properties. And then we can map and we can say, okay, email will be, oops, okay, hasn't refreshed yet. Need to refresh again. No, yeah, perfect. Email is email and magic link will be magic link. And then default authentication method should also be magic link, so that whenever we create a new user, it gets them attached automatically. Then we can click on save and sync, and then we wait a second for it to sync with our database. And then ideally, it should be able to, once we are here, once we add an email here, it should automatically pull them into here, right? That's very, very important. You can only have a user in Softr if the underlying database has the element has an email associated with it. So let's say Apple has hello@matthiasfrank.de and Acme has blog@matthiasfrank.de. Once I do both of these things, we should be able to go in here and we should ask it to refresh the sync. So we will just quickly, I think if we actually just like hit Command R, does it refresh then? Yeah, so we're syncing with Matthias Frank again. It pulls in the new information. And now in a second, we should have 2 users generated. So let's see whether that works as intended. And there we have our users. We have the emails in there. We have the magic link. And over in Notion, we see now that we have that magic link property as well. So if we copy this and send it to them, they will be able to log in. We test in a second, but one thing I actually forgot is I forgot to map the name. So I will go in here and I will say edit sync settings. And I'll make sure that the name is actually pulled in as well, just so we see in here, which client is actually associated with this email. And there we have Acme Inc. and Apple. if you want to add new clients and onboard them, you can do that now from two locations. You can either go back into Notion and add a new row in clients, and the second it has an email associated with it, it will create a Softr account for that app. Or you can click here on add users, add their email, the name if you want to, and then it will also sync that back to Notion. With the magic link, we can also start actually testing it from the user's perspective rather than going on preview. So what we can do is we can click on publish here quickly. That will put our app live, right? If we have a specific domain, we can do that. But in this case, we just like leave it with this for now. Now it's published, and now I can use any of these magic links, copy that, head on over to an incognito window, paste it in, and see what they would see when they're logged in. So we see welcome Apple, nice. So we pull in automatically the name of the user, and we have currently still all projects, right? We still need to do the filtering down, but that's now the next step. In order to now filter for only the specific elements, let's head back to the main page. So here we click on pages and then on home, and that's where we get back to the editor that allows us to change all these settings. We can click into it, and now here on the main page, we can add a conditional filter. And we can say, please show me only the elements here that are related to this client. So we click on add condition, and then we say, please show this only if the client includes any of, and then under select values, we get logged in user as a dynamic option. So we can say logged in user name, right? Only in that's the case if the client contains the name of the logged in user, do we want to show this when they are logged in. So let's click on publish, so we can publish these changes, and then we can head on over to our incognito window where we logged in, and we can refresh this. And now after this happens, we should only be able to see project A and B because those are the only ones, right, that are assigned to the specific client. And if we were to change this, right, if we say okay, project B, actually this is not Apple, right? We remove Apple here, then we can refresh it again, and now we should only see project A here as the only option for Apple to see. Perfect. Now, just like in Notion, you don't have to stop here, right? You can add also additional filters to it. So we could now say, okay, I don't just want to see the elements that are related to it, but I also only want to see the elements that are not done. Because I want to show the client in this section, right, only the open entries. So we can add a condition. And again, we just stack filters here, and we say, okay, and the status is not, and then done. And we see it automatically pulls in the values that we have in our Notion property. All right, perfect. And just like in Notion where we can choose whether these should be and or filters. So if we say should match all the criteria, we see if and, so both things together need to be true. And if we swap one for whatever reason have like either or filters, we can swap that here as well. But of course, in this case, we want both things to be the case. We only want to see elements related to this project that are not done. Next, we need to build a project dashboard so that when clients click into a specific project, they see all the tasks that are assigned to it. In order to do this, we need to go on the Actions tab, and then down below where it says Item on Click. And instead of saying do nothing, what we wanted to do is we want to open a details page. Once that happens, we can then say, okay, which details page will it be? And we haven't created one for this specific type of information, so we'll create a new one by clicking here. It will give us a few options, right, for the layout that we can choose, and that depends sort of on the data, right, that you want to pull in and display. So we're just going with this like fairly minimal one that allows us to display a few properties. So actually, in case we have some text property, maybe the first one here is a better choice. So let's go with that one. Perfect. So again, we can just click into it, and we can on here just set the different values that we want to pull in from there. So under content, again, we can say, okay, do we want an image? No, we don't have an image in our database, so we're going to hide this. The heading will be mapped to the name of the project that we're looking at. The short text we can map to the project duration. So we will go to the display duration. And then where it currently has a tag, we can add as a tag the current status, again with the color as defined in data source. And if we wanted to, right, we could now also pull in the type of the project, but we probably don't have to. So we're just going to remove this rich text field. Although we could of course map it to the client con, but here I don't want to have it, so I will remove it. Now, in terms of the edit button, right, if we want to allow the client to edit something on the project itself, we can leave it here. But on the project level, I actually don't want that to happen, right? I might want to allow the client to make changes to tasks and approve tasks. But here where it says edit, I actually want to delete that, so we just have that little project information at the top. Next, in order to actually pull the related items, we're going to click on Add Block. And here we can now design the rest of the page and pull in additional elements. And this is where the real magic happens. So as you can see, we have a bunch of options to choose from. And in this case, what we want is we want again like a type of list. So lists, as mentioned already, are whenever we pull database information from Notion and display it here. And we have different options to display it, right? We can have it as cards. We can have it as this list with an upvote button if that is relevant. But in our case, what we want is just a simple list with a horizontal cards. So let's look at what is a good minimal option. I think this one here is nice, where we get already the button here. Perfect. So let's click on that. Let's pull that one in. And just the same idea as before, we can now start setting up the elements. So for this one, let's go through this a little bit quicker and make sure that we map all the properties. First, we will select tasks as a database. And then we will set the filter in a second. First, let's tidy this up a little bit. So let's say for image, we don't want an image. Instead of the heading, for the heading, we will pull in the name of our task. For the text field, we will pull in the due date. And then for the tag options, we want to pull in the status, the corresponding one here from it, and also here map over the color. Perfect. That's a great start. Next, let's make sure that we hide our search bar and that we remove the categories, because here we don't need them to filter, here we just want them to see it. And then for now, also the action button, I want to remove this action button so that we here actually just have the tasks that belong to this project. To make this a little bit clearer what this is about, right, when the client looks at it, let's go to the content tab and like toggle on title and subtitle and just say, call this your project tasks. In terms of subtitle, we don't need that, so we can remove that. And then we want to maybe left align the project task, just so it's in line with this one. Now we need to make sure that if we click into a specific project, we only see the related tasks. And this is of course the equivalent of going into Notion and setting up a self-referential template. You all know the drill probably. If we go on a project, right, or pretty much in any database that has other items related to it, like in this case, tasks, we can go in here, we can say, get a new template, call this new project, and then in the page body, start building a database and say, please pull in here my tasks, but don't pull in all the tasks, pull in only the tasks that are related to the current project template that we're looking at. And that means then whenever we apply this template, right, to one of our actual projects, so for example to this one, it will automatically update this filter to only show me the tasks related to project A. Now, the same principle we need to apply, of course, here in Softr. So that means when we look at project B, right, we only see the tasks related to this. And we can do that in Softr by going to source. And then here, where it says conditional filter, we can both determine what elements of our task database should show up there. So let's click on add condition. And let's make sure that we only show something here if, and let's just quickly refresh, just to make sure we have the current properties in there, if the project includes the current record name. All right, this should be the condition that makes sure that we only see the elements that belong here to this project. Now, let's quickly test it. Let's preview it and see whether that actually works. So after publishing our changes, we can head back over to our demo account, refresh this quickly to make sure it has the changes, and then click into project A. And now, if we have in here, we should now see only task 2, which is currently related to project A. And we can double check that we have in here currently, only task 2 is project A. So we can assign project task 1 as well to project A. Go back, see that this works as well. 1 second. And now we have here both of our tasks and only these two and not the third one that belongs to project B. Now, this is already some pretty cool functionality to share with the client what you're currently working so that they at all times see it. And again, we could add a button here, right? If they, it's just like the same as with project, if they should submit new tasks. We're going to skip this here, but instead I want to show another feature. And that is that we can allow the client to actually update these entries. So let's say, for example, we want to use this workflow to help the client approve items. So in this case, what we could do is we could go into tasks and we could add a new status here to our status property and say, okay, under the in progress is like the, we have like an in review option, just changing the color here to purple. And then under the, we have also one that is called approved. All right, so in this case, approved would be that maybe like a nice, like gray. All right, perfect. What we can do now is we could say here, instead of like calling this, your project tasks, we could call this, your to be reviewed. And we can adjust the filter up here to say, okay, don't show me the things that are in progress. Show me only things that are currently, oops, we need to refresh it. Show me only values that have as the setting the, oh, 1 second, sometimes it takes for a moment to load. So let's try again, oops. Let's remove this filter for a second, refresh once more. And then we should be able to get that setting in here. So let's add condition. Let's say from the status, we want, yes, there it is, it is in review. So now we only show in review tasks here. And now we can add an action to this to say, okay, please with one click, review this element or approve it. In order to do so, let's quickly make sure that we have a task in here that is in the status, right? So it would be in this project A, that's currently in review, this one as well. And now, if we go to the, I will just quickly refresh this once. So we get our elements loaded. Now we have them in here. And now we can go to actions. And this time we can add an item button, right? Whereas top-up button is for the whole list. Item buttons are on, well, each individual item. And here you see we have a bunch of options. We can, again, open a details page, right? If you want to build, again, a details page for that specific task. We can scroll, we can open to, we can allow general edits. We get to that in a second. And we can do a one-click update. This is, and one-click update is perfect for these like just approve workflows, right? Where just one thing should happen when they click. In this case, what we wanted to do is we want this to say approve. And for the one-click update, we want to say now, okay, when the client clicks this button, we want to make sure that the status, the existing value, is instead replaced with let's pick it in. We don't have any of the dynamic values. Instead, what we want this to say is approved. That's, I think, how we spelled it on the other thing. So we add that in, and then we can say this task has been approved. All right, so now time to see whether this actually works. For this, let's head on back to our application. Let's refresh it here once, and then let's click into our project, right? So we can, oops, as long as this is loaded, we can click into project A, and then we should be able to see all the tasks that belong to project A in a second. And then we have here under project A, our approve button. So we should be able to click that, and that should automatically approve this. So let's see what happens. We have like this, like we get this notification, this task has been approved. Amazing. The status changes to approved here. And if we go back to Notion, we see now that our task 2 has been modified to approved. All right, but what if we want to give our clients more options, right? What if they should be able to edit more than just with a one click, change the status to a specific status? What if they should be able to freely choose the status? Or what if we want to be able to, collect some comments on it? Well, in order to do so, let's go back to our Softr app and then make sure that we are on our list and then on actions. And now we can add another item button next to approve. So this time it will be the edit record button. And this will, we can just leave the label as edit, right? We can change the modal title to, edit task, or like leave a comment. And then we can just call this save and cancel. And then we can add our fields that they should be able to change. So our input, let's say the first input should be text. And we want to map this to our comment field. And, the label will be comment. And then we can say like, write what you want to tell us. Perfect. And we can choose whether we want to make this required or not, right? Should they always have to leave a comment when they make an edit? Maybe, maybe not. And then we can also add a second field. We can say, okay, we also would like to, as from the dropdown, right? We want to be able to allow them to change the status levels. And here we want to map this to the status property. So here we want to sync it with the option from data source, right? So we'll automatically pull in the options that we have available there. And then as a label, change status, something like that. All right, so let's close all of this up. I think we're good here. And then let's publish updates. And then we can go back to our front end. We can refresh the whole thing here once, waiting for the new our new button option to appear. There it is. Oops, we currently don't have any task for the project. I think we filtered for this to show only the things in review. So let's actually put this back to in review. That's of course the thing, right? Depending on how you set these filters, but you can add more filters, right? You could have like a section for to be reviewed. You could have a section for tasks in a different status, for like the to be approved ones, right? So they know that as well. So now we can click here on our button, say edit, and we can leave a comment. So this is awesome. And then we change the status from in review to, well, in progress. Let's move it back. Let's click save. And then we get like the little marker here at the bottom. This record has been successfully updated. And if we go to Notion, we have now, this is awesome, and it is in progress. All the big building blocks are ready. Now we just need to tidy up our app. Let's start the tidying up on the first page, the home page. And again, right, if you don't know where to find it, you can always click on pages and then under home, and then you go here. So we set up, right, already our list down below, but we want to now change the login message. Right, so it says welcome login user, so we click on this and we say, okay, this is your homepage. Instead, we want this to say, here you can find all of your ongoing projects with us. Perfect. You could also add a background image if you want to add a little bit more of your personal branding here. And then you have these three features, right? But basically could act as 3 building blocks to send them to specific pages. So for example, right, if you wanted to share with them some guidance, some information, or like different ways of how to break down the projects, right? Maybe you have like different types of projects, and on this main page, you actually don't want to show them. Instead, you want to show them on their own pages. This is where you could set them up, right? You would simply add new pages here, and then you could link them here. And to do so, what you would do is you would go on each feature, right? And then where it says the link, read more, you can add an action, right? To open a specific page. And that's how you would link out to other elements in your little web app. But for this very simple build, we actually don't want to show them, right? Just a super simple client portal we want to build here. So I'm going to remove all the features, which leaves us just with this top section. Perfect. So that's the first step. And then if we wanted to show some additional text here, right, we could do that as well. We could add to it under content, title and subtitle if we wanted to for some information. But I think since we have just a very simple header up top, this should be good. What I do want to change though also on this page is the header, and we haven't paid any attention to it yet. But if you look at the top, you see that you have 2 elements actually here. And this is how Softr handles blocks that are different for logged-in users versus not logged-in users or any other user groups that you create. So basically you have, right, currently you see that this globe icon, this is what a not logged in user would see, sign in and sign up, and a logged in user would see this one with link 1 and link 2. Now, since in our simple client portal, we don't really need navigation and we don't really assume that people will be here not signed up, right? We always will share the magic link with them. So they just click on that and then they're automatically authorized. We don't need that. Of course, if you build a more complex web app, right, you want to have these things, and then you can, in the settings, change under visibility, right, should this show which one is the block for logged-in users, which one is the block for non-logged-in users. But in our case, we can simply remove both these building blocks. We don't need any elements here at the top. Actually, let's remove only the public one, right? That one we don't need. And then for the normal one, we can actually keep that. I just want to remove the links because we don't have different pages, right? We only will have the projects, and then on the individual projects, the dashboards. So the only thing they need to be able to navigate to is their profile, or then this main page if they need to go there. So to do that, right, we could add a logo, but for the links, we will just go in and we will remove them here. For now, we can actually keep this one and just call this home. So we don't want sublinks here, right? We don't need a burger menu. We will just call this home, and we'll say, okay, whenever someone clicks on that, as an action, I wanted to open the home page, right? This main one, so they can go back to there. And then for profile, that is fine. That will open the profile. We will remove the sign out button again because we assume that they use the magic link, and there's no need for them to sign out of their client dashboard. Last but not least, since it's such a minimal menu, I don't want it vertical on the side. I want it as a top bar option, and I want to show this always on the top of the screen, right? So if you scroll down, it is sticky and comes down with the user. So much for this page. So let's look at the other ones. And for that, we click on pages. One thing that we'll see is project details. That's the page that we created later. And whenever you create a new page, it adds it to the top here of the list. But I like to order, this little web app just in order of priority. So home is at the top, then project details. So let's look at that. And currently, right, we have our little project details up here. And then we have this one to be reviewed section that we built. But let's make sure that we have several sections, right? We want to show them the items to review. We want to show them the ones that we're currently working on, and then just our backlog of the things of everything that we've did so far. And we don't have to rebuild the whole section. What we can do is simply click on a duplicate, and that will give us another block down below with the exact same settings. So we can go in here, and then we can say here, right, this is like the, our in progress areas. We can add some subtitle to help like give some additional context. We are currently working on these tasks for you. And here as well, we can add like the little subtitle. Please review these tasks, and approve them to add them to our backlog. And last but not least, here we need to change, of course, the filter from in review to in progress. And last but not least, we need to add one more section down below, duplicating this one last time for the the track record sort of, completed tasks. Here's a quick overview of everything we've done for you so far. And again, right, just changing the status to that. Now again, super simple version of a client dashboard. You would probably, of course, like build this out more. You would then actually here, right, we can on these ones we can like remove the action buttons, because here, of course, we don't have this step. We could leave the add content one, but we don't need it. And then we could add also just like general text blocks to this page to give a bit more context, like help them, understand a few more elements. But again, just for like having a very quick demo workspace here, this looks now pretty good. And you see our header persists across the whole app. So we have also here then just like, the ability to go home. Moving on, let's go to the next page. And here is the list details. This is what we actually generated automatically in the beginning. So this is like same idea as with project details, right? It's one of these list views for like details views for a list. We actually don't need it, so we can just click on it and delete that. We don't need the we duplicated. Sorry, like one click. So we need to delete both of them. Let's remove them. In terms of sign-in, we don't really need to style it either, right? Because we don't use sign-in, we will use a magic link page. But if you wanted to do, an option with email sign-in or with Google sign-in, here's where you would customize that. In our case, we can simply say, please just hide this. We don't need it. Same for reset password, right? If you use magic link, same for forgot password. None of these pages are required for us. We only want user profile and quickly update that. And since we give them a magic link, we want to make sure that we hide the change password section. So this we can do by clicking on the side, and then under change password, we can simply toggle this off. And then they just will see their information. And again, right, you could add your branding now here with, the image. If you have some other elements there, they can also update these elements, right? And again, like all changes that they will make here, they will reflect in Notion. So if you have more fields about them, right, maybe you have even their plan there. You could add like a select field to Notion, have the plan that they can select there, and then they could change their plan themselves here on their profile and would automatically update in Notion. Now there's one last element here which is very important, and that is we need to actually lock down the app, because so far while we've seen already this element right here that this is only visible to on the block level, right, to logged in users. If we actually check out the homepage, we see that we don't have this lock icon here. So technically, if you look at this one here, right, if anyone could visit this page even if they are not logged in. So to make sure that this doesn't happen, we want to go again on pages, and then on the three dots next to it, we can go to settings of an individual page, and under visibility, we can make sure that only logged in users can visit these pages. So we do this just on every single page quickly. Oops, we want to, of course, not discard this. We want to, let's move myself here. We want to save it. And then we want to do the same for project details, right? Also project details visibility, only logged in users will be able to look at this. And then last but not least, user profile, that I think is by default already on, visibility only for logged in users. Perfect. So that's good. Now, just in case you want to have a default thing, right? If someone, finds out the URL to your little app and goes on there and they're not logged in, they don't have a magic link, we might want to add like just a default landing page, maybe like landing or like, whatever general information you want to have it. Maybe it's an about page, and then you want to create that. And then you could now style this as a general service offer, right? So you might want to have not a list here, but you just want to have like a hero section that like details what you do, right? And then you can have like a request demo button here. This request a demo button, you could link to open a specific page of yours, right, where they can sign up or where they can book a call. And what we can do then is we can make sure that in our page rules, we can say, okay, if anyone visits this page that is not logged in, please show them the about page. And this now means that, if we have a login user, they will always see home. And if we see like after sign out, they will actually see about. And if they see, if there's anyone who's not logged in, they will only see the about page and get prompted, to sign up to our service and join that. Last but not least, let's move it also below because we don't want to have it at the top. Home should be at the top. So let's just quickly check that this all works as intended. So we click on publish here to publish our changes to the app. Then we can copy the link, go on a new incognito browser window, go to that page, and we see this is what it sends us to. So like the actual URL is now, like the about, right? Even though we visited the main page, but since we set up the rules, they should always forward here if we are not authorized. This is what we see. And if we go back then to, either to Notion to figure out, to grab a magic link, or to Softr, grab one, just enter this here. So we get actually the sign on. We should instead be able to visit our main homepage in a second. And there we are. Welcome Acme, right? This was the login for Acme. These are our two projects here. We have home to go always back to. We can click on my profile to visit that. Go click on home to go back there. Perfect. So all the functionality is now there for our simple client portal. And with all this done, we can prepare to finally go live. These last things we want to change under settings. So here we can now first connect a custom domain, right? So we can publish any app just without a domain, and Softr will give us like a default, like similar to Notion where you get this like random sequence of numbers. But you can get your own domain and connect it here, and that's even available on the free plan, so you can like brand your client portal properly. You can then also, under General, go in and first rename this actually to Client Portal so that we're no longer Untitled Application 1. You can click on Save here. Now you see it also changes internally here. We can then, if we have a subdomain, right, we can change that. So, for example, since we here currently have the Softr app one, we could like rename this from Zane 3291 to at least something that more reflects on what we're doing, right? So this could be, Notion Consulting, and we can save this. If it's available, yep, that looks good. And then we could also upload a favicon, right? And that's that little icon that appears in the browser when someone visits that page, right? You see like here, this is like a little preview for that. On the free plan, right, we will always have this little, made with Softr badge. But if you upgrade, you can remove that and then, have it completely white labeled. That's the main thing that we need to do here, right? Of course, if we were to build like an app that we want to promote and all these things, we want to add like SEO settings as well. But right now, assuming this is just, a way for us to share with the clients that we already have and collaborate with them, we don't need to do anything here. So that means all we need to do now is set up all our remaining users, copy the link, share it with them, and we can start collaborating using Notion internally and Softr as the front-facing client portal. One last thing, in order to help your client more easily access their portals instead of just sending them to email, you should of course also add it to your onboarding. For example, if you have your main onboarding or project information page as a page in Notion that you can very easily share, with an individual client through the settings up top, since it doesn't need to pull in any dynamic data, you can then go in here and say, okay, let's add a button and let's call this, let's add an emoji. Let's call this launch client portal. And then here in the buttons, they can now offer open links, right? So we can say open page or URL, paste here our magic link that we get for that individual user, click on done, and then with one click of the button, they will get sent to Softr where they get welcome Acme, this is a specific client, here your project, and then we can have all the tracking happening in there. All right, that was a lot. But now you know how you can build custom client portals for your business setup in Notion. Or you can use the principles that you learned in this video and apply them to build your own mini apps on top of Notion. If you do that or you want to see something specific, then let me know down below in the comments. Oh, and if you're now finally ready to move your whole business into Notion, well, I've got you covered. Here is a full tutorial that will teach you everything to go from an empty page to a fully blown business setup in Notion. Just click here and I will see you in a second.